So this is a mini lecture on the Black Mirror Playtest episode, which is season 3, episode 2. I thought that episode was very interesting, and there is my detail of it and its connection to Scott Hent. So the setup of the episode is that Cooper is an American traveler and he's escaping family problems, where he ends up in London and introduces him to Saito Gemu, who offers a chance to test this AR/VR implant, and his motivations are for thrill, curiosity, money, and excitement. So it was interesting because like you see at the beginning of the episode that he was secretly trying to leave the house, and then in a bunch of like a montage scene, we explore the his life. It's like a basic a day in his life, and we see how he traveled to Rome, he traveled to different islands. He lived in different countries. He went to Spain, and that's how he got the scar. And he's asking, how tall is this? How tall is that? And we could kind of see him. And then there's the plans of what he is and the as a person, and how he came about being who he is. There's it's not super detailed, but it's just enough for you to get attached to the character and understand where they're going with it. And I thought it was a nice little play on it. And eventually he goes to meet Sonia in um, London, where we kind of gets an emotional crux of who he is as a person. And I do find it very fascinating how his father had Alzheimer's and like his mother's trying to talk to him, but they're not that close and it's just kind of messing with him. I also thought Sonya was interesting and they had great banter. Um, and then when he got to Saito Gemu, they did the whole they did the implant and then did the whole go for game, which was very cool. I thought it was very interesting. And it also kind of sets up a little detail in that one where they told him not to have his phone and they turn it off. And then, and from a previous scene, they say you should take pictures and I'll get you a lot of money. And when Sonny was talking to him, and then that led to him turning back, asking about the sign up page, which they forgot, which they did forget, and they had to walk out, which led to him unlocking his phone and taking a picture of what's going on and sending to Sonia, which I thought was a key detail because he did because they didn't lock back his phone, like turn it off, which led to his mom calling him. It was a constant theme throughout the episode. His mom consistent calling, his mom consistent calling. And this led to them mom calling and she's like, I thought I'd turn this off. She had a thing. And then they led to the eventually the VR game. And after he accomplished that, she asked him, do you want to see a greater version of that game? Escalated. And of course, there'd be more money involved, which obviously led to the playtest. So what happens next is that they drive him to an abandoned house. This house is based off a model of a game. I believe that was already played, a horror game. And in that house, they basically essentially turn it into a fair house, a haunted house, where he will be tested by virtual imagery of several people, well, not several people, but several fairs. So he has a fear of spider, he has a fear of his losing his father, uh, and then he has a fear of, I think in terms of the messaging is a fear of abandonment and a fear of dealing with hard situations. So at first it's simulation, the spiders, they don't exist, even the big crazy ones. And then there's like jump scares and all these kinds of things happening. And eventually he gets a visit from Sonia in the haunted house. He starts hearing the people that's supposed to control the game, and Sonya attacks him, and it feels very real to him. It doesn't feel like a simulation. So he's not sure where the simulation, what's going on. It's like it's getting deeper and deeper in his brain, like what's going on? His subconscious is leaking and everything like that. And, eventually Sonya disappears, is all of his wounds, his pain, all of it is disappeared. And the this guy returns back to reality basically, and they're talking to him and they're like, "Hey, everything here is a simulation. Nothing here is real." And he's like, "No, I felt that. Stop the game. Stop the game." And he's trying to stop the game. That was a safe word, stop. So he trying to stop the game, and he was about doing everything that they tell him to do to stop the game. And it seemingly seems like he stopped the game and ended up back where he was at. But it ends up in a twist at the end where he hasn't left the gopher area. And what happens is that his a phone call from his mom, which is consistently happening, it interferes with the game mechanics, and then his subconscious and reality bleed together and causes an overload, which ends up killing him at the end. And what was interesting that right before that, we had a little sweet thing where he goes in and actually visits his mom, like he's going to talk to his mom, when in reality, that's not exactly what happens. And he dies before even having a full conversation with his mother, which is the sad thing. So I'm going to detail how this intertwines with Scott and Ant, and I'm going to compare the two and tell you which one I think is more in line with what is the episode trying to say. So with Scott, which is the social construction of technology, there it's mostly talking about game innovation, the thrills, the secrecy of it, the adventure, the distractions. And here we're mostly dealing with the VR and how the nature of the game was built and how it connects to your mind and your subconscious is via the use of the technology, and how the corporation is secret and it makes profit, makes a lot of money based on the VR nature of the game. And, but it is clear that this particular type of game that he was using the playtest on, that was a bit way too advanced for the nature of people in the real world. It's a game that you probably have to play in a bunker where that's your only access to technology. Because if you have any access to the technology and the signal messes with that game system, it could lead to fatal consequences. Yes. And then for the ant, which is the actor network theory, it details the connection he has with other people and the game and how it interferes with him. Where the game preyed on his fears, which was the spiders, his father's dementia, his connection with his mom, his connection with Sonia, and the lack of understanding of relationships, and how the code eventually starts seeping into his subconscious due to what happened to Scott, which is the phone call and signal messaging with everything, which lead to him getting things feeling like it's real, but it's not really real, and he's unsure of what's going on. Where the whole playtest thing was actually started back in the Gopher part where his phone signal was going off, which means he didn't actually meet the other guy or the go to the haunted house. No, he was basically still in the same spot, but his mind and subconscious made that all real to him, and eventually it over it overburned his system, basically, like his actual system, leading to his death. Yes. And it's just how the connection with human and non-human work, and how his connection to human work, and how the game system, and we preyed on that. And I find it was intriguing how that twist worked, because it's like, wow, it as even self still, like when I was watching the episode, so when they ended the gopher part of it, before they went back to it, I actually believed that there was a they went into the upgrade system, went to the haunted house, and all of that, and we got these spiders and stuff like that. Well, I believe that could very well all have been virtual, bled into his subconscious and bled into reality and make him think it was real when it was actually not real. And I just find that's like an interesting part of the whole thing. Now, as for Scott versus Ant, the Scott meetings basically details how the game was built, its connections with technology, and why, and the whole virtual system of it, the whole connection, the lack of using a phone, and all of that. Well, and it breaks down how the connection with his fears work, his connection with human to human, and how the game preyed on it, and everything on that. So Scott is a human meaning and is a distributed, and together is intentions versus consequences. The intention, and at the end of the day, was to watch this new game system. Not really watch, but take part and participate. With thrills, do the fears, and small little things that will eventually lead to something more in the future if the system was working functionally and there was no back, nothing to hold it back. And the consequences was that he probably should have listened to instructions and not taking the pictures, not turning his phone, and the game system would probably be successful. But the backlash to that is that if it does successful, it goes successful for him, it could have ended up in a situation where they mass produce it without any warnings and or with people in other spaces of technology where these signals happen, even if the warnings happen, it could still lead to other people having a lot of death because at the end of the day, they probably didn't know that the phone signal would have messed with it on a lethal scale or this kind of consequence if they didn't go through this part, if this didn't happen to Cooper. And unfortunately for Cooper, he ended up becoming a casualty in what seems like progress for game system that was way too advanced at the time. So in conclusion, I think Playtest uses both Scott and Ant in action. Scott explains the social shaping of design and explains the consequences of everything that happened with it. I think it's closer to Ant than to Scott, as it more deals with the technology part of it. It doesn't really too dig deep into the human-to-human interactions and how it works like that. And, and I think that at the end of the day, humans build technology, but networks decide their fate is the overall theme that we're placed on this episode. And that is my presentation. I thank you all for listening.